Oh, hi. I'm Craig Bergland, presiding and founding bishop of the Universal Anglican Church. I'm glad you've decided to join me today, and I thought I might take you for a walk. You know, last time I did a video, we talked a little bit about ego, or I mentioned ego anyway. And ego is a topic that's broadly misunderstood. We think of ego often in a Western context. What is it that makes us egomaniacal? That person over there, he's so full of himself, and so we talk about him as having a problem with ego. But in many ways, ego is like this row of trees behind me. It's pretty, it's beautiful, it's a facade. It deceives us into thinking that we are somewhere, or somebody even, that we're not. And yet, if we walk far enough down a line of trees and start to take that ego apart, we come to see that what it really does is just hides the truth of what's going on. You might say that these trees serve to hide this highway from our consciousness. What does that mean? Well, one of the things that it means is that we construct a facade, a kind of false self around ourselves, because we believe that that false self makes us acceptable. Sometimes, here comes a truck, sometimes that facade is temporarily necessary. It assures us that we're okay. It includes roles that we play in life. Now, some of those roles are perfectly fine and acceptable. Some of those roles are things like parent, spouse, even child, employee, friend. But within those roles that we play, we can find ourselves in a position where we no longer know what the true self, who the true self, underneath all of that role playing really is. We can come to believe that we are the facade. And of course, nothing could be further from the truth. The minute, however, that we believe we're the facade, we start acting in a way that isn't very authentic. It impacts our relationships. It impacts our self-understanding. It changes everything. And so the spiritual journey is about taking that facade apart, disassembling the ego, giving up the idea that the things I do in my daily life constitute who I really am. We stop believing in our own story and start digging for what's underneath. You might say, we set out on a journey to discover who we really are. The reason that we're somewhat reluctant to do that, of course, is that it can be uncomfortable. It's not always easy to see the truth behind who we are. It's not always the most pleasant thing in the world to realize that we've been leading a life that's largely inauthentic. And the reason we do that, the reason we lead that life, is because we're scared to death that we may not be here tomorrow. But if we're honest about it, the day is going to come for each of us when we aren't here. It's not the day that we no longer exist, but it's the day that we start existing in a different form. We can choose to put all this work off. We can choose not to look at it. We can choose to live inauthentically. But I promise you that if you do that, when that day comes, when you start to make that transition, that day comes when you get the diagnosis, your struggle's going to be greater. Because now, in a time-limited way, you will be forced to confront whatever it is you've been hiding under that facade. The Eastern understanding of ego is very different from the Western understanding of ego, although it might be said to include it. The task in our journey is to take apart the facade and get to what's authentic. And there's no time to start like the present. My name is Craig Bergland. I'm the presiding bishop of the Universal Anglican Church, and I thank you for taking the time to join me today. Namaste, and God bless.